colleagues Carol DeWolf, Vice Chair, Scott Yaw, Police Commissioner, and I are not only pleased to welcome John Altschul, Westtown Township's new Township Manager, to his first official Crebilly Toll CU hearing, which I'm sure he won't forget, but to welcome and thank all of you again who have so diligently continued with your interest, your involvement tonight, with your patience and your attention on this important matter. By now, with all of us living in the age of COVID and Zoom, working, meeting, studying, even playing virtually, it goes without saying, but nevertheless deserves to be acknowledged each time, that conducting in this manner, the sixth Crebilly Toll CU hearing, is by definition unusual, and as you know by now, especially this evening, at times it may even be awkward. That said, let there be no doubt that the virtual hearing is neither the preference of the board nor frankly of the applicant. However, after months of delay and a change to the law, it has been and is the applicant's legal prerogative to put a halt to further delaying the process in the vain hopes the pandemic would improve to permit indoor gatherings. Obviously it didn't. If anything, as we are being warned every day, it has worsened. Simply put, we are where we are. So first, speaking on behalf of Westtown Township's Board of Supervisors, management, and staff, I trust you are doing and will continue to do whatever you can to keep you and yours safe and healthy under these challenging circumstances. With that said, before turning the proceedings over to Township Solicitor Patrick McKenna, I'll lead off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pat?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience as we try to work through the technical glitches here this evening. This hearing has been continued from the hearing on October 22nd of 2020. By way of reminder, the Township is recording the hearing for the purposes of assisting the court reporter to complete the transcript. I'm also advised that Mindy Rhodes is recording the hearing also this evening. The Township's recording will not be maintained once the transcript is completed. This evening, as with our prior hearings, the proceeding will mirror as closely as possible the process for an in-person hearing. Toll only has one witness left to present for their case in chief. His name is Jeff Madden, and he is the engineer. So they will present their case this evening with Mr. Madden. All parties on the board will have a chance to ask questions of that witness, and you'll be recognized and unmuted when your name is called. If you're on the phone, press *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute. The exhibits will be shown on the screen as the witness testifies, and the exhibits are also up on the Township's website. If for some reason Mr. Madden does not finish, we will come back for our next hearing, which is currently scheduled for December 16th of 2020 at 7 p.m., also via Zoom. So again, the next hearing is December 16th, 2020, and a future hearing date has already been established of January 26th, 2021. All participants and parties should have the ability to enter your names on the Zoom call as you have in the past. Please take the time to do so that we may properly identify you. As you know, Zoom sometimes works well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes there's a delay when speaking. As such, we ask that you please wait until the person is done speaking so as not to speak over him or her and create confusion for the court reporter. Please make sure you're in a quiet location and please speak up so that all can hear you. Public comment will commence at a future hearing date at the conclusion of the evidentiary proceeding by the parties. As before, we'll probably take a break right around 8 o'clock, maybe a little later than that now. Typically, we would conclude around 9, but we're going to go a little bit later in deference to the applicant with the delay that we've had here this evening. So probably a break more along the lines of 8:30 and conclude around the lines of 9:30. Is there anyone other than the Township and Mindy Rhodes who are recording the hearing this evening? If so, would you please raise your hand and identify yourselves? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. So that's all the housekeeping items that I have. Mila, real quick, I'm probably going to log off and log right back in because I'm having some issues not being able to mute myself, but I don't want to delay the proceeding, so I'd like to ask Mr. Edelman if he's prepared to go ahead and call his first witness.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Pat, and good evening, everyone. I'd like to call Jeffrey Madden to be sworn and testify.
Mr. Madden, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. If you could please state your full name and your business address for the record.
Sure. Hopefully everyone can hear me. My name is Jeffrey Madden. The business address is 1140 Virginia Drive in Port Washington, Pennsylvania, 19034.
And Jeff, I'd like to show you what was previously marked as Exhibit A12. Is this a copy of your curriculum vitae or resume?
Yes, it is.
And the address that's on that resume, was that your prior office address?
That was the prior office address, yes.
Okay, so the current address is the one you just provided.
Correct. We just moved.
I'd ask the board to take notice of Mr. Madden's qualifications as a professional engineer licensed in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and his prior testimony in the prior conditional use hearing on the Crebilly farm, and ask that he be accepted as an expert in civil engineering and site planning and design.
Greg, was he so admitted as an expert in the first hearing?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Does anyone have any objection to Mr. Madden being so admitted as the expert? I'm not hearing any, so I think you're okay.
Great, thank you. Jeff, are you the project engineer for Toll Brothers' proposed development of the Robinson tract?
Yes, I am.
And are you familiar with Westtown Township's zoning ordinance and its provisions related to the flexible development procedure?
Yes, I am.
I'd like to show you what I've marked as Exhibit A65, which is a plan set entitled Conditional Use Plans. I believe it's consisting of 71 sheets dated August 9, 2019. Are you familiar with this plan set?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and did you prepare or were you involved in the preparation of this plan set?
Yes, I was.
And was Exhibit A65 the conditional use plan that was submitted with the conditional use application?
Yes, it was.
Did you also prepare the conditional use application that was submitted with the prior Crebilly farm application? I believe it was marked Exhibit A6.
Yes, I did.
And that's what's being depicted on the screen at this moment, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Generally, how is the plan that is now been marked as Exhibit A65 different than the prior conditional use site plan A6?
The new site plan labeled Exhibit A65 moved one of the site entrances off of 926 to line up with the intersection of Bridlewood Boulevard. It eliminated the right in, right out along 202. The mix was slightly changed. There was previously 117 townhomes. Now there's 135. There was previously 127 side entry singles. Now there's 118. And there was previously 73 front entry singles. Now there's 64. The open space is roughly the same, around 197 acres. There are fewer homes on the westernmost portion of the development property than there was previously. We shifted everything to the right a little bit. One of the major changes was the addition of the collector road, and there is an additional trail that's located next to the collector road.
Okay, and when you say collector road, where is the road connecting from what road to what road?
Sure, it's the spine road that's connecting West Pleasant Grove Road at the top to Street Road at the bottom.
Okay, so north to south? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And just generally, again, to refresh everyone's recollection and for the record, where's the property located?
It's in the general intersection of the following roads: 202, 926, New Street, and West Pleasant Grove Road.
Okay, and how is the property zoned?
The property is zoned AC and R1.
And I believe you may have stated this previously, but what's the total approximate acreage of the property?
The approximate acreage is 322 acres.
Okay, and just some preliminary housekeeping items. I'd like to show you what was previously marked as Exhibit A4, which are the deeds for the property. Take us a moment to pull them up. And who are the legal owners of the subject property?
The Robinson family and related entities.
Okay. And I'd like to show you what I've marked as Exhibit A5, or previously marked as Exhibit A5, which is a redacted copy of the agreement of sale for the property.
Is there a question there?
Just waiting for it to load.
Waiting for the exhibit to load. If you could
Sorry.
take a moment, please. Sorry.
There we go.
There it is. And is Toll purchasing the entire development property?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And what use is Toll proposing to develop on the subject property?
The flexible development.
Okay, and is that flexible development permitted in the AC and R1 zoning districts?
Yes, it is by conditional use.
And what is the design process under the ordinance that's required for a flexible development?
It's under the conservation design, which is section 170, 16, 17 of the zoning ordinance.
Okay. And does that design process require an initial existing natural resources and site analysis?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And in addition to the conservation design's existing natural resources analysis, what else does the flexible development procedure require Toll to analyze in terms of natural resources?
The natural resources are specified in section 170, 905A, 1, A through L. They would include the slopes less than 15%, 15 to 25, and greater than 25. Some other areas are the areas within the flood district, the floodway, the flood fringe, the approximate floodplain area, the water bodies and water courses, both perennial and seasonal, the drainage basins and subbasins, the wetlands, generalized soil types on and around the property, the geological characteristics, including any rock formations on the site. Also depicted are existing vegetation, tree masses, tree lines, hedgerows, trees over 6 inches tall, any wetland vegetation, meadow, pasture, cropland, or cultivated or ornamental garden areas. Also depicted would be existing structures and other improvements, historical resources, existing paths and trails on the property and surrounding, and any land visible from any adjacent public road. And that last one is shown on pages 5 and 6 of the plan set.
Okay, and what sheet are the other existing conditions shown on of the plan set?
The existing conditions are shown on sheet 2
And that's of Exhibit A65?
of A65, correct.
Correct. Before we get into the specific aspects of the proposed flexible development, I'd like to show you what I've marked as Exhibits A66A and A66B, which are the natural feature plan sheets contained in the conditional use plan set, Exhibit A65. We just pull them out as excerpts. What natural resources are depicted on the property on Exhibits A66A and A66B?
Sure. Focusing on A66A, which is plan sheet 3 of the plan set. There are wetlands depicted of 11.29 acres, The 100-year floodplain of 14.16 acres, steep slopes of 15 to 25% of 12.42 acres, and also there are 1.74 acres of steep slopes over 25%. Those are all primary conservation areas shown on sheet 3 of the plan set. Going to sheet 4 of the plan set, which I believe is A66B, those would show the secondary conservation areas, which total 27.28 acres. And they would include woodlands, tree lines, any large specimen trees over 18 inches in diameter, the approximate location of the seasonal high water table, and they also depict the adjacent open space, parklands, and trails on the surrounding properties.
Okay, and under the conservation design process, what do you do once you've mapped and analyzed the existing resources?
Once you've mapped everything, you would then prepare potential development area concept map.
I'd like to show you what I've marked as Exhibit A67, which is the potential development area plan sheet from the conditional use plan set. Please explain to the board how the potential development areas are determined.
Sure. The areas shown, which is on plan sheet 9 of the plan set, the brick pattern, which is prominent on this plan, shows the areas that are exclusive of the primary and secondary resources, and that would be the area with the potential development of the area. They do not include any primary conservation areas, except minor intrusions for land development purposes and otherwise permitted by the Commonwealth, such as road crossings, which we do have in a few locations. We also minimize the intrusion into secondary conservation areas. So there's no more than 50% of the secondary conservation areas, except if modified by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay. And again, what were the intrusions that are permitted into the primary conservation areas?
The primary conservation area intrusions are the road crossings that were at the site. There's one in the upper left-hand corner that goes across the stream, and then there's another one right across from Bridlewood Boulevard, which again would go across a stream and some slopes.
Okay, and in order to go across the stream, what type of permits would be required?
We would need permits from the DEP, general permits from the Department of Environmental Protection.
Okay. I'd like to show you what I've marked as Exhibit A68, which is the overall site plan sheet from the conditional use plan set depicting the proposed development. How many units are proposed here? New units, that is.
There are 317 new units.
Okay, and what is the spacing shown on this plan between the townhome buildings?
The townhome units on this plan are spaced with 60 feet apart from one side, from one group of buildings to the next group of buildings.
And how did you lay out this site plan?
Using the potential development area concept map, the site was laid out for the roads, the trails, and stormwater areas. And the layout was done to try to limit and avoid all the natural resources previously discussed on the primary and secondary conservation maps.
So basically you put the development in the areas that are developable from the prior
Correct.
plan sheet, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, looking at the specific details of the proposed flexible development, can you please provide the board with an overview of the specifics, again, such as accesses, stormwater locations, streets, trails, etc.?
Sure. Just try to give a brief description of each one. For the accesses, we have an access off of Street Road across from Bridlewood Boulevard. That's one of the Collector Road entrances. The other Collector Road entrance is off of West Pleasant Grove Road by the intersection with 202. And then we also have two intersections near the townhouses off of West Pleasant Grove Road to the west of the intersection with the collector road as well. There are 182 singles laid out throughout the property with 135 carriages and 2 existing homes. There are 10 stormwater basins located throughout the site, generally located in the lower areas outside of the buffer and stream areas, which will have infiltration properties and collect the water through the roads, swales, and stormwater structures. The streets generally follow the contours to minimize disturbance. There's parking areas located in a few different areas of the site for off-road parking by the clubhouses. There's trails located throughout the site in the open space and also along the collector road. The accessory uses on the property, there's 2 clubhouses in 2 different locations, and they would be shown also on pages 15 to 33 of the plan set. There is landscaping, not shown in this plan, but on other sheets throughout the plan set, of street trees, buffer plantings, and basin plantings, and those would be located on pages 51 to 69 of the plan set. Also on those sheets, there's street lighting at the intersections, also on pages 51 to 69. There's screenings included with the landscaping on those sheets I just previously talked about. And then ultimately there would be underground utilities located throughout the roads, open spaces, and basins for storm sewer, sanitary sewer, water placed normally in the roads themselves.
Is there an emergency access proposed for the project?
Yes, there is. There's one emergency access, or sorry, there's 2 emergency accesses, one off of New Street, and also one off of 926 Street Road.
Okay. And generally, where are the wastewater disposal areas located?
The wastewater disposal areas are located in the northwest corner of the property on sheet 12.
I'm
There's
sorry.
a hatch pattern at the intersection.
Jeff, one moment, please. We lost you. When we go back, I'll ask the question again. Where are the wastewater disposal areas generally located on the site?
Okay. The wastewater disposal areas are located, one of them is located in the northwest corner of the property at the intersection of West Pleasant Grove Road and New Street. And the other one is located in the southeastern portion of the property, roughly around the intersection of 202 and 926.
Okay. And where is the general location of the proposed wastewater treatment facility located?
Shown on sheet 12, it is to the west of the southern spray area, which is around the area of Route 202 and 926, but is shown to the west of the hatch pattern in that vicinity.
I'm sorry,
There's a small
hash,
box.
Jeff, did you say the hash pattern in the vicinity? You broke up again.
The hatch pattern in the vicinity of 202 and 926. To the west of that hatch pattern is the sewage disposal treatment facility.
Okay. And that's on Exhibit A68, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what forms of residential uses are proposed to be constructed on the property?
Single family detached and townhomes.
And are they permitted uses under the ordinance?
Yes, they are under 170, 903, A, and C.
And you mentioned the accessory clubhouse and community facilities. Are they permitted accessory uses under the ordinance?
Yes, they are under section 170, 903, I.
Okay. And how did you calculate the permitted base density for the proposed development?
Using the adjusted tract area, we then multiplied by 1.1.
And is that shown on a plan sheet in the conditional use plan set?
Yes, it is. It's shown on sheet 12, which is Exhibit A68.
What is the maximum net residential density per acre for the single-family detached homes?
The maximum is for single family is 4 units per acre. And we have a calculation also shown on sheet 12, which shows there's roughly 3 units per acre provided.
Okay. And what is the maximum net residential density per acre for the townhomes?
The townhome density is 10 units per acre of townhomes. And again, on sheet 12, which is Exhibit A68, there is a chart that shows we have roughly around 7 units per acre provided on the site.
Okay. Now, turning to the required open space, what percentage of the gross tract area needs to be set aside for the required open space?
You need to have 60% of the gross tract area set aside, or roughly on this project 193.4 acres.
And what plan sheet is that shown on?
That is shown on sheet 14 of the plan set.
And that plan set again was Exhibit A65?
Correct.
And does the plan comply with respect to the required open space?
Yes, we do. We show 196.94, roughly 197 acres of open space, also shown on that sheet 14 of the Exhibit A68.
I'm sorry, is that 65, did you say? Sheet 14.
Sheet 14 of Exhibit A, I'm trying to read it in the corner. It's A.
Sheet 14 is from the original conditional use plan set, correct?
Correct. A65, yes.
Okay. What's the maximum impervious coverage permitted under the ordinance?
There's only the maximum impervious coverage for multifamily is specified in the ordinance, and that is 45% maximum. We have a calculation on sheet 12 of Exhibit A65, which shows 34.5% impervious proposed.
And are townhomes included in multifamily?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Is there a maximum impervious coverage for single-family detached homes?
There is not.
Okay. What is the maximum permitted height?
The maximum permitted height is 38 feet.
And will all the homes be 38 feet or less in height?
Yes, they will.
Does the plan comply with the other dimensional requirements for both single-family detached homes and townhomes?
Yes, it does. There's a schematic on sheet 12 of the plan set, which is part of Exhibit A65, and it complies with section 170, 904, E, 10, and 11 for single family, and section 170, 904, E, 2, A and B, and 904, E, 10, C for the townhouse or multifamily.
Could toll reduce the building-to-building setbacks for the townhomes?
Yes, that's a possibility under section 170, 904, E, 10, D.
Did you say D as in David?
D as in David or dog, yes.
Okay. I'd like to show you what I've marked as Exhibit A69, which is an alternate plan sheet included in the conditional use plan set. Does this plan show the changed building-to-building setbacks for the townhomes from 60 to 30 feet?
Yes, it does.
And will the change in the building-to-building setbacks for townhomes increase the density at all?
No, it will not.
Does the change in the building-to-building setbacks for townhomes increase the amount of open space?
The open space is roughly the same, but what it does is it allows for a more contiguous open space around the property.
Okay. If we go back to Exhibit A65, the conditional use plan set. Is at least 50% of the open space located outside of floodplain areas, wetland areas, and areas greater than 25% slope?
Yes, it is. There is around 197 acres of open space, and the three areas referenced above by you have a total area of 27.2 acres. So there's definitely less than the 50% open space required.
Okay. And what is the minimum width of the qualifying open space areas?
The minimum width is 75 feet.
And how much open space is required to be active recreation per the ordinance?
There's 10% required at the discretion of the Board of Supervisors.
And does Exhibit A65 show possible active recreational areas satisfying that 10% requirement?
Yes, it does. One of the sheets, sheet 50, shows that possible active recreation area.
Okay. And I think you touched on this in your overview of the plan, but what trails are proposed to be constructed through the open space areas?
There's multiple trails shown on the property in the darker dotted patch pattern, connecting several roads, with one of the most definitive ones is to the west of the collector road, and then also spread throughout the project, looping on itself in several locations.
And who will own and maintain the open space?
The future association, unless the township wants to accept an offer for dedication.
And what type of maintenance will the association conduct for the open space?
A planting plan or schedule will be provided, and that would be the maintenance associated with anything on the area.
Jeff, if you could repeat that answer, you faded out again. What type of maintenance will the association provide for the open space?
Sure, there will be a planting plan or a schedule provided for the maintenance of the area required by the association to maintain.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to some of the other aspects of the conditional use application. Was touched on by prior witnesses, but how will sewer service be provided to the proposed flexible development?
Sure, as discussed in prior testimony, the proposed on-site treatment, which is consistent with the Township's Act 537 wastewater management plan, is proposed on this site.
Okay, and you previously identified where those areas for wastewater treatment and disposal were located, but if you could highlight them again.
Sure. One of the areas is section of West Pleasant Grove Road and South New Street. And then there's also the alternative. The second area is at the intersection of Route 202 and 926. And also at this area in the vicinity is the treatment plant.
Okay, I just want to make sure, Eleanor, did you get that?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff, how will water service be provided to the proposed flexible development?
By Aqua Pennsylvania, Aqua PA.
Okay, and then Aqua Pennsylvania confirmed that there's adequate supply to service the proposed development?
Yes, they did.
I'd like to show you what I've marked as Exhibit A70, which is a letter dated August 19, 2019 from Aqua. Is this Aqua's will serve letter?
Yes, it is.
Did the township review and comment on the proposed conditional use application and plan?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Let's highlight those review letters for the record. I believe they were already introduced as township exhibits, and I'll go through them. I'd like to show you what was marked as Exhibit B as in boy 54, and I believe it's a McCormick and Taylor review letter dated October 3rd, 2019. Is this the township engineer's review letter?
Yes, it is.
I'd like to show you what was marked as Exhibits B as in boy 56 and 57, which are copies of John Snook's October 3rd and October 17, 2019 letters. Are these the township planner's review letters?
Yes, they are.
I'd like to show you what was marked as Exhibit B as in boy 59, which is a copy of the police chief's October 3rd, 2019 review letter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I'd like to show you what was marked as Exhibit B as in boy 61, which is a copy of Cedarville Engineering's November 1st, 2019 review letter. Is this the Township Stormwater Engineer's review letter?
Yes, it is.
And just for the record, isn't it true that the Township Traffic Engineer issued multiple review letters, but they were covered in prior testimony, correct?
Yes, they were correct.
All right. Did Toll issue a response to the Township's comments?
Yes, they did.
Okay, and was that response authored by you?
Yes, it was.
I'd like to show you what I've marked as Exhibit A71, which is a copy of ESE Consultants' response letter dated December 2nd, 2019. Is this a copy of your response?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and did that response letter respond to all of the comments that we just highlighted?
Yes, they did.
Okay. I'd also like to show you what I've marked as Exhibits A71A and A71B. A71A being a draft declaration of planned community, and A71B being a November 2019 stormwater management narrative.